In the fading light of an autumn evening, when the horizon was painted with shades of orange and violet and the chill of night began its quiet descent, a peculiar story wove itself into the fabric of an otherwise ordinary neighborhood. Tonight's narrative follows the unsettling events that unfolded in a modest house set apart from its siblings by a narrow lane lined with old trees and creeping ivy. The days of routine and quiet calm had given way to a series of mysterious occurrences, each one a small ripple that, when combined, would grow into a tide of unspoken dread. From the moment the last beams of daylight surrendered to the darkness, an inexplicable presence made itself known at the window, its silhouette merging with the night's deepest secrets. In the beginning, the house exuded a warm familiarity. Its windows glowed with the gentle light of evening rituals and the coziness of family life. Yet, despite the comfort inside, there was something almost imperceptibly off about the atmosphere. The window in question, facing the side street, seemed to hold a secret all its own. From a distance, one could see a faint outline, a dark shape that defied the clarity of reflection. As the night deepened, that shape grew bolder, evolving from a mere shadow passing by into a sustained gaze into the soul of the house. The quiet murmur of the wind outside seemed to carry a warning, as if nature itself were cautioning against the unease that had silently taken root. It started on a routine evening with calm domesticity, lamplight spilling onto worn wooden floors and familiar furnishings that whispered history with every creak. The narrator, whose life had until now been defined by predictable rhythms and a sense of quiet security, found that very night a nagging sensation settled in the pit of the stomach. That uneasy feeling, like a ripple across still water, hinted at something lurking just at the periphery of vision. At first, it was almost ignorable, a trick of the light or a shadow born of passing clouds. But the persistence of the anomaly, its insistence on reappearing night after night, signaled that something far more sinister was at play. As the clock ticked past the witching hour, the normalcy of the domestic scene began to fracture. The observer noticed small signs of intrusion into the familiar setting, a slight tremor in the reflection cast by the window, where the outline of a figure could be seen layered against the natural darkness. In those moments, the radiation of fear was not immediate anger or overt panic. Rather, it was a slow burning awareness that something watched intently from beyond the glass. The reflection, which at times seemed to mimic the motions of the resident, did so with an unsettling lag, as if it were tethered to a different reality. In the dim light, every object took on a character of its own. The worn armchair by the window, the old picture frames that lined the mantel, the patterns on the rug that spread out like the tender weave of a secret tapestry, all melded into a tableau that was both comforting and ominous. Yet none of these could account for the lingering feeling that, somewhere in the realm of twilight, an eyesore had turned into an ever-watchful guardian of dark intentions. The figure, whatever it was, exuded a presence that was nearly tangible, permeating the space between solid certainty and the intangible whisper of the wind. Over successive nights, the phenomenon escalated in subtle yet unmistakable ways. The observer began to document every detail, the shifting positions of objects cast into stark relief by the intermittent streetlight, the eerie stillness that intermingled with the sound of unseen breathing, the reflections that no mirror or natural phenomenon could explain. The sensation that the watcher was not merely observing but studying every nuance of the household brought forth an internal dread. In these nocturnal hours, the boundary between safe space and the open void outside seemed to dissolve, leaving behind a chilling impression that the watcher might be waiting, patiently, inexorably, for the precise moment when vulnerability could be exploited. There was a peculiar intimacy in the way the observer could almost feel the weight of invisible eyes, an intimacy that defied the natural separation of inside and outside. Every glance toward the window was a delicate interplay between curiosity and terror. The observer recalled the old adage, "If you look long enough into the dark, something eventually looks back," and it felt as though this warning had finally come to fruition. The experience evoked memories of urban legends and ghost stories, tales of spectral figures that appeared at the periphery of one's vision, haunting individuals in their most solitary moments. Yet, unlike those ephemeral stories, this presence was resolute, a constant vigilance that seemed to demand acknowledgement without offering any promise of retreat. As the week unfolded, each night met the new one with an increasing intensity that suggested the watcher's purpose was far from random. The once fleeting shadow had gained substance, its contours sharpening in the gloom until it resembled little more than an unyielding gaze that pierced the darkness. The persistent presence was inscrutable, a silent threat incorporated into the everyday life of the house. The observer's mind, once governed by rational assurances, now found itself adrift in a sea of uneasy speculation. Was the figure a stranger unknown to the world of the living? Or was it perhaps a manifestation of something deeply internal, a projection of suppressed anxieties and hidden truths? The duality of this enigma, straddling the border between figurative and literal, lent an almost poetic horror to the nocturnal tableau. Every detail of that watchful presence was recorded in the narrator's memory with an accuracy that bordered on obsessive. The window, once a benign fixture, now held a spectral energy that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of a secret heartbeat. Shadows swayed and contorted as though animated by a life force alien to the natural order, and the observer's own reflection, when caught by chance in a nearby mirror, betrayed the knowledge of another, an interloper in their private realms. The experience became a meditative descent into the nature of fear itself, an inquiry into how the fragile boundary between reassuring normalcy and the inexplicable unknown could be shattered by a mere glance extended too long into the dark. It was on one particularly cool night, when the silence of the hour was broken only by the slow ticking of a distant clock and the rustle of autumn leaves outside, that the intensity of the moment reached its apogee. The space between the observer and the window seemed charged with an electric tension, each second stretching into infinity as the figure maintained its unwavering vigil. In that suspended moment, the observer could sense that the walls of the home, the familiar textures of every piece of furniture, and even the very air itself were complicit in the unfolding spectacle. There was no dramatic intrusion, no sudden chaos. Instead, there was a quiet, insidious shift in reality, as though the nighttime itself had conspired to blur the lines between what was known and what was feared. The evolution of the watcher's existence was as much an inner journey as it was an external event. As the observer's fear deepened, so too did a concurrent, unsettling fascination take root. The ritual of glancing at the window, of noting the ghostly presence with a mix of dread and intrigue, became in itself a compulsion. The phenomenon was compelling in its ambiguity, neither wholly malevolent nor entirely benign. It seemed to carry the weight of an ancient secret. The faint line dividing terror and a morbid curiosity was drawn ever thinner, forcing a confrontation with the paradox of wanting to understand while simultaneously wishing to escape. It was the kind of situation that could unseat the most steadfast rational mind, leaving it teetering on the edge of an unfathomable abyss. A series of silent nights progressed with this ominous routine, punctuated only by subtle variations. Occasionally, an added nuance would manifest, an unexpected distortion in the reflection, a shift in the angle of the eerie gaze, or a barely perceptible change in the ambient light that tricked the eye into witnessing a glimpse of something else entirely. Each new detail served as both a revelation and a deeper enigma, leading the observer to wonder if the figure's presence was tied to a broader narrative echoing through the corridors of urban myths and forgotten histories. The house, set as it was within a neighborhood that had seen decades of change yet held onto its own unspoken legacy, now felt like the stage for an eternal drama. The watcher, both a harbinger and a witness, became an embodiment of every unspoken warning that had been passed down through whispered lore. In the calm aftermath of these experiences, the observer turned inward to reflect upon the nature of human vulnerability and the innate tendency to both seek comfort in the familiar and recoil from that which threatens its sanctity. The narrative of the watcher found resonance in the deep-seated human desire to find patterns in chaos, to assign meaning to an otherwise capricious existence governed by uncertainty. It became increasingly clear that the silent figure in the window was not an isolated aberration, but rather a mirror reflecting the bittersweet truth that life is a tapestry woven from both light and shadow. Each dark brushstroke in the painting of existence, the observer realized, was a reminder of the delicate balance between security and the unknown, an eternal interplay that defined the human condition. With each passing night, the observer's relationship with the phenomenon shifted imperceptibly. What began as sheer terror gradually evolved into a resigned acknowledgement of a presence that could neither be easily explained nor entirely banished. In the dim glow of the street lamp filtering through the gossamer curtains, the weight of the watcher's stare was both oppressive and mesmerizing. The observer came to understand that the phantom at the window, with its inscrutable gaze, was a challenge, a puzzle inviting introspection rather than immediate confrontation. There was a strange solace, almost a morbid comfort, in accepting that some secrets dwell at the boundaries of human comprehension, preserved in the silent language of the night. In the wake of this acceptance, An unexpected clarity emerged from the swirling uncertainty. The observer recognized that the presence had transformed the very essence of each night into something transcendent, a ritual of vigilance that revealed the frailty of everyday certainty. Even as fear and fascination coexisted, there was an awareness that, in the silent communion with the unknown, one could learn the art of living in spite of, and perhaps because of, the shadows. The watcher became a spectral mentor of sorts, compelling a deeper inquiry into the hidden recesses of the soul where our most guarded secrets reside. As the observer's every breath was suffused with both dread and a wistful curiosity, the interplay between fear and understanding unfolded like an intricate dance in the dim hours of the night. On a night when the boundary between dreams and waking life blurred beyond recognition, the observer found that the institution of fear itself had lost its grip, replaced by a contemplative acknowledgement of all that life left unsaid. The window, now a threshold between the secure known and the vast unknown, was no longer merely the portal through which the watcher's gaze entered. It was the embodiment of an ancient rite of passage. The quiet humility of accepting that some mysteries are meant to be embraced rather than conquered gave way to a serene determination to coexist with the ever-watchful figure. In that ephemeral realization, the observer understood that the watcher was neither a malign spirit nor a random trick of the interplay of shadows, but rather a reminder that every life, no matter how ordinary, carries within it the seeds of a grand, enigmatic narrative. As dawn's first light threatened to break the dominion of the night, the house, once again bathed in the subtle hues of morning, seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief. The figure in the window, however, remained a steadfast part of the nightly ritual. Along with it, the observer's journey took on new meaning, a transformation wrought not by the disappearance of fear, but by the deep recognition that the chiaroscuro of life is defined equally by its lights and its shadows. In the final analysis, the tale of this unnerving presence became a meditation on the intrinsic duality of existence, a solemn reminder that the interplay of light and dark, hope and despair, is both inevitable and profoundly human. Thus, the nights continued, each one carrying the memory of a vigil unbroken and the echo of an ancient truth, that when one dares to peer into the depths of darkness, there will be something there, unmoving, persistent, and filled with an enigmatic intensity that defies explanation. In the quiet corridors of that old house, the watcher in the window had become a symbol of both ominous mystery and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of the unknowable. Every glance cast toward the window held within it the bittersweet blend of fear and understanding, a reminder that some mysteries are not meant to be unraveled, but rather to inspire the quiet wonder of living. As you continue to traverse the restless hours of the night, remember that the boundary between comfort and the unknown is a fragile and ever-shifting veil. The echo of that unwavering gaze serves as an invitation to contemplate the timeless dance of perceptions, where every shadow hides a story and every flicker of movement on the glass is an echo of something ancient and enduring. And so, if you ever find yourself alone with only the stars for company, consider that perhaps, just as the night conceals its myriad secrets well, so too does it grant us the vision to see beyond the surface, a glimpse into the fragile, luminous thread that binds every soul to the eternal mystery of being. In the final reckoning, the watcher in the window stands not only as an emblem of terror, but as a testament to the enduring power of curiosity and the depth of human introspection. The darkened pane has, in turn, become a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and the quiet resilience with which we face them. The story remains etched in memory, a narrative woven from the fabric of darkness and light, of fear and acceptance, ever reminding us that within the silence of the night, even the most benign window can transform into a portal of untold revelations. With each passing twilight, as you lock your doors and draw your curtains tight against the encroaching dark, hold in your mind the image of that persistent silhouette. Let it remind you that true discovery often lies in confronting the eerie truths hidden at the edges of everyday life. In that solitary vigil against the unknown, there is an opportunity to learn that the interplay between shadow and form is not just a harbinger of dread, but also a profound celebration of life's mysterious, uncharted realms. Embrace the night with both caution and wonder, knowing that the watchful eyes beyond the glass may just be offering you a glimpse of what it truly means to be alive. And now, as the night yields once again to the promise of another day, the tale of the watcher in the window persists, an unending chronicle that both haunts and inspires. In that unyielding gaze lies the secret of the dark, that in every moment of solitary reflection, when we dare to confront the mysteries cast in shadow, there emerges a profound truth about our own capacity to feel, to wonder, and ultimately, to embrace the unknown with a quiet, resolute grace.